Hello, hello. Welcome to Creativity-Hive's weekly program. My name is Miriam Haugen, and I'm one of the founders of Creativity-Hive. We help videographers achieve massive editing skills through one-on-one teaching and live group coaching in Adobe Premiere Pro and After Effects. And today, really excited to have with us Dacia.
Hi.
Hello,
So
Dacia.
excited to be here with you. Hi, Miriam.
So, I am just curious. I always like to know how people got where they're at. What training did you have? What's your background?
Yeah, so it's been a very winding road, a very interesting road. I started, I think, yeah, as like my first. I would have to say my first dipping a toe into photography and videography. I was very lucky as a young child to have like tech forward parents who had camcorders and toys that they let me play with. So I remember making my first stop motion movie when I was like 5, and being
Oh,
just
wow.
so just blown away by the magic of movie making. And then I remember having that camcorder that recorded to cassette tapes. I don't know if you remember that, and it was like a kid's toy camera. I really wish that I had that, and I really wish I could see what sort of experimental films I was making. But I was always just like had my camcorder, and if my cousins were around or my sibling, like I would just put my director hat on and start making everyone basically like bring my vision to life, like whether it was a music video or variety show, interviews, very very sketch comedy. I don't know if we were funny, but we were trying,
You probably thought you were funny.
we were really funny. So it's kind of, I always thought, I love technology, I love learning, I love playing. There were times my first editing bay were like 2 camcorders where I would put highlights from my favorite highlights from a basketball game onto another one. And then it was until later that I started finally editing in Final Cut and Premiere, actually both, in college. So I wanted to go to film school, and that didn't really work out. I didn't take algebra 2 in high school, so they didn't let me into the communications department. But I
Oh,
found my way. I found a program that would allow me to take classes in everything, and I took photography. I was shooting on a Hasselblad on film, and would spend a ton of time developing. And I took a bunch of really incredible film classes with Sandy Stone at UT, and then eventually made my way into traditional media, working on different post productions. One for this really wild production. It was the first time any of these people had made a show. I think they finally hired people with some knowledge, but it was sort of a mess of a show called American Made. It was the first time CNBC funded a show that wasn't live, about entrepreneurs in the United States who had done the American story, and I started as a PA, but when the actual people from CNBC showed up, things were such a mess. And they were just like, how are we going to pull this show off? Like, we have to go to air in 2 weeks, and there wasn't even it was like a 45-minute show that needed to be edited with like a 20-minute interview with Howard Schultz. So I quickly got promoted to to lead photography and video B-roll researcher, and my job became to find footage that we could fill in all of these holds for and tell these stories. So that was super cool. I kind of just jumped in head first, and had to be really creative and think of ways to find really cool footage that might help tell that story. And that led to other opportunities, working on shows for PBS, and this really cool movie that the Sundance Foundation that we partnered with to do. So I really loved it. I was working in post. I was working with directors and producers who I really admired, who were making really cool content. But then I just got sort of like, stressed out about the gig. It's like one gig would end, and it was like, what's the next thing? And a
right.
little burnt out by the hours and the stress. And eventually I went back to grad school and I got my master's in digital media. This was at the time that like DSLR filmmaking was really coming up, and I had previously done my thesis on democratizing creativity. That's always been a huge passion of mine. For everybody's creative, everyone has a story to tell. How do we make the tools accessible for people to dip their toes in that? And so I was really excited about social media democratizing a platform for people to share stories. I was very excited for DSLR filmmaking to bring like a really beautiful, gorgeous cinematic look at a more, down to like a one, someone as a Swiss Army knife could make a whole production and you didn't need this whole team to do something beautiful. So yeah, I got into that. I became a youth media educator for Real Girls at in Seattle, Washington, and that sort of led to a lot of really cool opportunities. I got to work on some social justice, forward documentaries, and I got to work with the Center for Human Rights at the University of Washington, and I spent a lot of time traveling and documenting and helping bring stories, underrepresented stories to the forefront, which was really awesome. And then eventually I met people. I think I was at one of my DSLR media camps over the summer, and really incredible who became a colleague, who is also a fellow student in the program that I graduated from. She was a product manager for Premiere Pro. Laura Williams Argilla. Shout out. Love you, Laura. So she came to one of my Real Girls summer sessions, and I had, we'd managed to have 16 youth films made in the 5-day camp. And she was like, how did you manage to get this many really cool projects edited? And I was like, Final Cut Pro 10. I love it. It's amazing. It was very controversial. Nobody liked Final Cut 10. I loved it. It was super easy to teach the youth. And then she was like, well, I work on Adobe Premiere Pro. I was like, well, I stand by what I said. I didn't even have to teach they were off and running in 10 minutes, and I loved it. And then for years, she was like, hey, come work at Adobe. Come help us. And I was like, what am I going to do at Adobe? I'm not an engineer. What are you talking about? And eventually she got me. So a couple years after that, there was a new prototype app being developed to animate things on the iPad. And I got, she encouraged me to apply. I really resisted. Really didn't think I would get the role, given that I didn't have any background in software engineering. But I got it, and I've been here ever since. So really, I'm here, I feel, to represent the user. I'm here to translate. I think of myself as a Rosetta Stone between creatives and engineering minds. We work with a ton of brilliant engineers who are very intelligent in what they do, but maybe don't use the tool the way that creatives need to or think about. And so, so it's like understanding the limitations of the code base, and they can, why can't we do it this way? And explaining that back to creatives, and then understanding what creatives really want and coming back to them and being like, well, can we figure out a way to make it happen? Because like we got to find a middle ground somewhere and make our tools, something that is less of a frustration and more of an instrument that you feel you're playing and getting your into creative flow with. So I love it. I've been here now 6 years. The app that I was working on it got tabled, but I ended up on the motion graphics templates team. And so I've been working on Mogerts since day one. And I'm the self-proclaimed little prince of Mogerts. I love them. It's a way, I think, for people who are too scared to go into After Effects to get a little taste of the magic, or for people who love being in After Effects but also are those Swiss Army knives that wear a lot of hats. It's just a way to simplify their workflow, to take some of that redundant work out of the way, so you have more time to do the fun stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to bring in Neil and Mo here because, they can go geek out with you on Mogerts. That sounds like a great plan.
Yeah.
Or maybe you guys have some questions for Dacia.
I love the way you got into it, what you're doing now. And I know most people that'll be watching this have, of course, not had the joy of meeting Dacia live, which I have on several occasions. She is
many years.
She is such an ebullient person. She is so fun to be around. She's bubbly, and ideas pop out of that brain faster than anybody else around her can think. And she's just this most amazing person. And I know one time we were teaching assistants at Max together, and after it was an After Effects class, graphics work in After Effects. And as it finished, we got talking because one of the other people, David Arbor, that was a TA, had mentioned that he was having this one problem with doing this one thing in Mogerts, and John Colombo had commented that he couldn't figure out yet. Dacia is rather, yep, and quite literally. And so John sits down and is kind of puzzled and have not what to do. And we have this whole room of computers, right? So Dacia sits down at another computer, and in like about 30 seconds after she gets into the program, she's replicated exactly what the problem was that David Arbor was having and was starting to explain it to John. And Tim Krakowski, one of the head Mogos people, kind of organizes, it seems like, much of the After Effects people, was standing there just looking at me, and he was just kind of had this bemused smile and was shaking on his head, and he just was whispering, "Dacia, it's just Dacia," and going, "Yeah, that's."
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It was just you were so zoned in, and you just sat down, and man, you were just going, and you had this figured out, and you were explaining it to John and everything, and what you were going to do when you got back to the shop. And it I was standing there with a few other, because we had some total After Effects geeks right there, and we were all just standing there smiling and laughing and going, "Wow, that's amazing." So this is what it's like when you get to be actually in person with Dacia.
Oh, you are too kind. That is something, though. I think why I have thrived in this role is because I love solving puzzles, and that's what it is. You guys send me something and say, why isn't this thing working? And then I got to dig in. And it's, I always dreamed of being like a private eye or something. And that didn't happen because I'm squeamish around blood. And I would never have been a good detective or a police officer. So I feel like this is a way to get that sort of Murder, She Wrote, Columbo, Matlock itch taken care of. Yeah.
Wow, that is such a gift, because some of us just really hate problem solving. Going, oh, it's not working. Why is it not working?
It's so tempting to just toss it out the window, right? Like, there are days where you're like, why? It definitely, technology loves to challenge us, for sure. I want to know about Mo, though. I just got the honor of meeting Mo via email.
Holy moly! No.
How about you?
It's just me. I just have a little tiny 12-inch screen in front of me, and I kind of just dabble away. Miriam will tell you maybe.
Liar, liar, pants on fire.
Oh, he is. Yeah, he doesn't tout himself nearly well enough. Oh my gosh, he's incredible. He is able to wear all those different hats, director and producer, and he's amazing in After Effects. That little opener that we showed at the beginning of the program, he did. Mo is, and what a teacher. Oh my gosh, he's trying to teach me Premiere Pro, and and he's great. He says, "Okay, now do it again. Okay, now close it all out. Do it again."
That's the way. That's the way.
Awesome.
So when we started talking about doing this whole thing, Mo was saying, well, we need to have curriculums. And so we have a LucidLink file space so that we can see all our documentation and everything. And we can actually work in Premiere Pro. Mo and I can work on projects in Premiere Pro using Lucid Link as the file storage, even though it's in London, he's in South Africa, I'm in Oregon, and we're both running off of media that is actually sitting on a computer, some server somewhere in London.
Wow.
Okay. So he drops a folder up on our Lucid Link file space and says, we need curriculums like this. And so Miriam and I go and we open it, and there's like 40 complete classes in there with, these 60-page PDFs with all, completely finished with all of the images, all of the graphics to them and everything. And we're going, curriculums like those. Yeah. Uh-huh. I mean, like the guy has every certification, Premiere Pro, After Effects, everything. I mean, it's just amazing.
They're just lying. It's just lying. Right. So Dacia, just I'll give it to you in a quick nutshell. So I began doing intelligent laser design, with the engineering side with Playpack in Italy. Yeah, then I did my sound engineering. So I worked at Sony in New York, and I worked at Abbey Road Studios and sat in with Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston and all these guys. As an apprentice engineer. So it was awesome. And
in the studio while they were like belting it out, you were like
for the bad album, absolutely.
Shut up.
Absolutely. So I did big concerts. So I did, the Masterpiece controller was just launched at that time, intelligent lighting control. So I did the big concerts for Snoop Dogg and that, and when they came to South Africa, so all the intelligent laser design and stuff. And then I did all my Microsoft certifications, right? So I used to code, and it will hit home really hard with you because I was huge into the open Linux community. So I contribute thousands of lines to Red Hat. And, hacking was out at that time. So it was kind of fun, yeah. And then I did all my Microsoft certifications and right up to engineering, MCSE. And then the creative side took me by the horns. And I got into Adobe stuff. From the time it was Adobe's version, God knows what. And I just continued. And then I became a director, opened a media company, did a couple of TV commercials, music videos for MTV. Then I got into visual effects. The biggest one we did was for Kia, for Mad Max Fury Road, which Waiter came down and commandeered the entire company. So we did all the CG vehicles, right? And then I teach, but my teaching approach is totally different. It's extremely proactive. It's not like, hey, Dacia, so now we're going to learn expressions, and now I'm going to say, like, do you understand expressions? You're going to, yeah, I understand. I say, okay, Dacia, show me an expression. And then, the best way to learn is when you put someone under that sort of pressure. So it's been great. And I lecture. Adobe was one of my clients. I used to lecture all the Adobe internal staff. And this is why it's so great to meet you, because I know you in a position where you're understanding the engineering and then you understand the end user, and you need to explain from both ends. And it's not very easy.
Not easy.
So I have a question for you. Yeah. You raised a very interesting point, that you wrote a thesis on democratizing media, right? So you've watched Side by Side in 2012, right? Yeah, with Keanu Reeves in 2012, Side by Side. I'm sure you've watched that.
I've never seen that movie.
Holy God, Dacia, you're kidding me. You got to get it. I'm going to send you, well, I'm not supposed to send you that link, but you can know where to get these things from, right? Just get it.
Keanu Reeves?
Yeah, he hosted the whole. It was about the evolution from shooting on film to shooting on digital. Oh. And you brought up a very important point about when DSLRs was introduced, and Martin Scorsese was introduced, James Cameron was interviewed, all the big guys, A-listers, were there, director-wise. And there was a comment made by, I think, Martin Scorsese that said, there's a lot of content out there. There's, millions of hours of content, because cameras have come to the public now. You're not shooting on an Alexa, you're not shooting on a Red Dragon, etc. You're shooting on small cameras with almost full size sensors. But how do you get yourself to be noticed amongst this plethora of traffic and noise? And not everyone is shooting. So my question to you would be the following: at Adobe, how do people get recognized? Because if you look at people shooting stuff, it's pretty much, the mundane kind of stuff, sunset, a little bit of glint, and a little bit of depth of field, a little bit of, camera flare, etc. You know what I'm talking about, right? So how does, in a world like we live in, where tech has miniaturized, but all the same kind of stuff is being shot, how does one set themselves apart and get noticed as a filmmaker, not just a visual effects artist? That's easy to get noticed, but As a filmmaker, what would your take be on that? Do something different, go out into the jungle and shoot something crazy?
I mean, I think that what I've learned in the past, so, it's interesting because I remember, it's interesting that you brought it side by side, because I remember here in Texas, Robert Rodriguez back in like 2002, 2003 started shooting digitally and was bringing his budgets down super low. And I remember I was volunteering at South by Southwest, and I, got to take him through from the green room to the thing and listen to this talk that I really wanted to hear about. Like, there was I think it might have even been with Quentin Tarantino, and they were arguing about like film versus digital and like, were you losing soul and all of that.
I
think at the time, it was like, the argument was, these big cameras, the Reds, the Aris, like they're so, you're gatekeeping. You're keeping potentially certain people who have really good vision or really good ideas out of the opportunity to even share that, because it doesn't exist, right? And so like the dream was everybody gets a chance to tell a story, and then that will lead us to all of these incredible new artists, right? Which did really happen. What we didn't foresee, though, was that we were going to be so saturated by so much content that our attention spans were going to turn into the size of a gnat.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, definitely.
So then when I was in my grad school program, everything was about like, at that time it was like, you got to go viral. You got to make a viral video. Making a viral video was the most important thing. And by the end of that program and sort of a few years into that, we realized like, you don't actually need to make a viral video. You just need to know how to find your people. You need to you need to figure out like, who are you making this content for? Who is your audience? And really, I think this goes back to why the internet itself was so revolutionary, starting in the 90s, was that people found each other. You have some really wild hobby. You're like a Rubik's Cube. You're obsessed with Rubik's Cubes. You can find everyone else who's obsessed with Rubik's Cubes. And so I think the goal is for sure. I know that people who are influencers and are monetizing their content in really interesting ways obviously have a big reach. But the thing is that more importantly, I'm hearing an echo. Is it me? So I think
I don't know why there's an echo.
I took care of it.
Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry. I was on I just like, my hearing your own voice. You know what I mean? So find your people. I think that's the most important thing. I think that we are finding that there is also a lot of different kinds of users, so we still have the CNNs and the BBCs and the MTVs, the bigger Hollywood production. There are still these complex systems of content creation that require a lot of people and a lot of resources, right? And that's one sort of user that we have to continue to support and continue to understand what their needs are. And then there's a spectrum all the way down to like the communications teams at nonprofits who need to figure out how to speak to their funders and how to get their message out and their mission, or the advertisers, any advertisers for any sort of campaign. And then you've got the TikTokers and the social media people who, you can see that you actually don't even need your content to be like highly produced. It just needs to be unique, and it needs to be fresh, and it needs to be authentic. I think the word authentic always pops up in my head. Absolutely. I feel like when you're able to capture something that you really want to say is like, this is a point of view. People respond to that, and one thing that I've been very, very shy for the last 6 years and haven't really posted any work, as I've tried to, I see my time at Adobe as kind of getting my PhD in After Effects. That's how I see it. I'm able to meet with so many incredible artists and see their projects and like learn from them, like things like I get this behind the scenes look at things, and I'm terrified to make my own stuff anymore or share it. And I was interviewing someone recently for an Adobe community show, Jared Brady. He's looks like an angel dropped from the heavens above. He's beautiful, and him and his wife are content creators. She does a sex positive show on YouTube for relationships, and he does like music videos and stuff. And he shared something with us that I thought was really interesting. He said, people are really invested in your process. He said, just start making, and people want to go on that journey with you. You know, people want to see you evolve creatively. People want to see where you started and where you end up as you continue to spend time in your practice and in your craft. And so that was really powerful to me. You know, I don't think that your work has to be perfect when it comes out. This is what I'm trying to get over myself. You know, what does it look like to share unpolished things, but that are really sincere? And I'm really trying. and what does it look like to stick with it and continue to practice? You know, I think we look at musicians. I've always thought of this, like musicians, you know, they have to, like, if I want to be good at the bass, where's the bass? If I want to be good at the bass, I have to practice every day. If I want to be good at the drums, I have to practice every day. And it seems like with other creative endeavors, we just say, oh no, well, they're just a genius. That's why it's so good. And no, people are good at what they do because they take the time to continue learning. They take the time to challenge that inner critic and to move forward ahead. And it's not just inspiration, but really the dedication to practicing. And so that's, I don't know, maybe a very long-winded way how to stand out. I think just stay committed to your practice.
Fantastic.
Find your people. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, absolutely. It's for the viewers out there that are trying to find the space amongst the noise. And I think it's great advice. Fantastic. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure.
So what I take from that is that I need to keep on working on my little cinemagraphs. And I posted, I mean, they're really bad. They're really bad. But I just said, I just need to do this. I'm going to put it out there, no matter how bad it is. And but it's the practice, and staying committed.
It's staying committed. It's something I struggle with, but I'm always, again, I look at musicians and I'm like, there's never any question that musicians have to practice every day. We understand that, like, intellectually, we know it's a given, right? Why don't we view other arts as I don't know, that idea isn't as linked in. It's like, you know, we just, at least from my perspective, it just seems like we're like, that writer's a genius, that painter's a genius, oh, that filmmaker's a genius. But it's like, well, they probably they stick with it, you know. The Duplass brothers talk about this a lot. You know, they were working 9-to-5 jobs, and they just like worked on the weekends on their passion projects. And now look, you know, they've taken off and are not only creating amazing content themselves, but producing other people's content and helping lift them up. And so, I think it's just, how do you make the time to get better and become a part of community? You know, I think that's what I love about the After Effects community more than anything. I feel like there's a very, like, people want to help each other out and skill share. I think that's a really important part of democratizing the tools. Is that people aren't just keeping the secret of how they did it. Like, everyone has their process videos. That's another way to engage. And I don't know, it feels like we're much more organically trying to help lift each other up. That's in my most Pollyanna, you know.
Well, I think, you know, Adobe strategically placed has a great responsibility on its shoulders to uphold the creative, you know, arena for people that are just coming out there. My biggest recommendation, and I've been saying this for years and years, and I don't see it happening though, but is I've never seen something being said about making editing or making visual effects or making Premiere Pro or making After Effects fun. You know, it's all about expressions. It's all about moments, and great. And we love the tech behind it. And I commend the engineers, and hats off to everyone behind this. It's long hours. I understand. I was in that shoes not too long ago. But how about making it fun? And what does that definition mean? And this goes back to what about democratizing your media. is making it fun, and that's the paradigm shift at the moment, and that's how I see it actually taking the world by storm, and you making it yourself a differentiator by enjoying the software. And I haven't seen it anyway. The words enjoy your software. I know I just made it up now. So enjoy your software. You know?
I am with you, and I think I make it. No, I'm not being. Maybe I am being controversial, but everyone at this point, I always say. I mean, I've been here for 6 years now, and I have never stopped saying it. I like Final Cut 10 because it makes me enjoy what I'm doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I might not have all of the tools at my disposal that I have, or the depth of the tools, but it's fun, and
it's fun. And fun breeds creativity.
And fun brings creativity. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I definitely feel like that is something. We have been a personal project of passion of mine is to figure out how to make expressions fun.
Ooh, good luck.
The thing is
I'm going to kick in here to explain, because a lot of people don't understand when they talk about expressions. When you're working in After Effects, you can write essentially, it's like a JavaScript code kind of thing, where you use words and a few numbers in specialized phrases to tell After Effects what to do, and to do this at this point, and jump over to here and change to these keyframes and this kind of stuff. And so it's the kind of thing that even the people that are really into it have libraries of this stuff built up, so that they can go and they can search through their libraries to find out how to do it, because they don't remember how to do all of this right off the top of their head. So
it's so powerful. That's awesome. I'm still learning. I've got my JavaScript for Kids book that I'm still working on, and
JavaScript for Kids.
I do. I'm trying to learn, and I just figured I'd start there. Like that, it would be like the simplest way, right? I want it to feel like, I don't know if you guys ever had a chance to play with like Kano or Roblox. They're basically coding. Here, can I? I'm gonna
grab it.
Oops, something fell. Okay, so there's this like thing here. I haven't even. It's like you can code this.
Awesome.
You can code this light thing, and it can make animations happen, and you can code it to be responsive to sound or light or temperature, to tell you what the temperature is. You can do all kinds of fun things with this little display. And the app to do the coding, it's all very Lego blocks. Like, there's these blocks that very clearly show you, well, you need an argument here. And I'm saying things like I'm learning through code. It doesn't say it that way, but it's like you need to tell it what to do here. And so you got to put another Lego block here and another block here. Yeah. And they're all color coded. So like the things that need arguments might be orange, and the things that are like declarative or blue. And so it's just it's like a really cool drag and drop WYSIWYG way of understanding. Like you're just building relationships. So like this is something that I wish we could figure out how to do in After Effects. It's I think that I'm always interested in how do we bring more people into this world that are like scared of it. Like don't be scared. It's actually super powerful. And once you start learning expressions, even if you're doing the basics, which I do, pick whipping is a simple thing you can do. One of the easiest ways, if you're new to After Effects, and that I wish I would have learned this day one, because I spent probably 5 years before learning about the expression controls. So if you've got a bunch of different shapes and text layers with their own colors, I used to manually go in and change every single color because I didn't know that there was a different way. And so we'd be like, oh my God, like the client or someone would be like, no, that like we want it lighter. So I got to go in every layer and then change all of it. But no, you can just literally rig. You can just, there's a little swirl and you can just grab it's like the expression controls are kind of like empty UI. They're like an empty control. And you say, hey, all of these things, all these 50 layers, I'm going to attach you to this one color control.
One color slider,
You just do it. I just have to change it in one place. So learning these things, it's like they're scary at first, but then they can also be simple enough that you realize, oh man, like I take the tedious stuff and make that less so that I can spend more time playing and having fun. If I have to change the color in only one spot or a couple places, then I can play with different ideas much quicker, right? Than being like, forget it, I'm just gonna leave it the way it is, because it's
the same thing with the motion graph editor. Like, it's something that people click and go, oh my god, and then it close it down really quickly. But it's so much of fun to play with. I mean, if you know Photoshop, if you know what you're doing. I mean, even if you don't, you experiment, it's not going to break, and you get some amazing results, and you don't believe what you're doing, and then you go back to it. So if you can do the same with expressions, and to answer your kind of question where you said, I wish we could figure out a way to do it. There is actually a way to do it, but we'll talk about it at some other point. It's actually a pretty simple idea. And my motto in life is the following: the simplest ideas are much better than you think. We kind of go to the complex side of things, and expressions. What are we going to do? We change colors, and we're going to make the writing block easier for people. But people just get afraid of any sort of scripting language. And the way to make it easy is exactly what you just showed me. But to have it kind of, let me not just say too much, built into After Effects, it will be a great idea.
That's fun. I just read an article in TechCrunch that there's a new AI-powered no-code code where people are just typing in, what do you want to do, and it translates to the code.
Absolutely.
So we just, John Colombo actually just wrote a library of functions that we made specifically for Mogurt users. Like, what are what are the expressions that are very performative, that are computationally really heavy, that so that they slow the Mogurt down, or what are the things that just take forever to write out? Like, how can we, it's like Wiggle. Before Wiggle was in After Effects, it was actually like
that long.
So you just, you put it in a package and you say, all you have to say is Wiggle now, right?
Wiggle.
We tried to do that with like 40 of the most used things in Mogurt. So we created he made a very optimized version of sort of some of these most used tools. I tested it and have been an evangelist for it. And it's, the people though that have been writing expressions for a long time are so resistant to it, because they're like, well, what is this new thing that I have to learn, and why I don't have as much control over it, and so that's the thing. It's a hard part about a community where you're trying to get new users excited, or intermediate users to step up in a new way. And you've got the people who've been around for a long time, and people get set in their ways, and I want to respect that too. Like, you took a lot of time to learn how you do it, and I don't want to make you mad. I want to continue. You can continue doing it the way that you want, but also let's make the table longer. No one's gonna take anything away from you if we make the thing a little more easy to comprehend for people who might not have already gotten into it or scared to. So that's my North Star. That's the fight that I show.
Well, when I come up to the States, Neil and Miriam, the first person I actually now want to meet is Dacia.
Oh, I can't wait. I'm so excited. I want to know everything. I want to know.
Absolutely.
Everything. That sounds so great. I love what you just said.
Stage stuff too. Ooh, so fun.
I love what you just said about make the table longer. Let's just be more inclusive. And also, that what popped into my head when you're talking about making it fun and approachable is kind of gamifying the whole process. Yeah. I think that's what Creativity-Hive it needs to be. We need to gamify this process of teaching people. That is going to be fun.
Yeah, well, we've have fun, and if you can't, if you can't experiment, if you're so scared, you got to play. You got to be okay to fail. You got to try some things out.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Very cool. Well, we've gone on, a little bit longer than our half-hour target.
No,
I think we have lots of stuff that we can maybe bring in future shows, right?
I'd be happy to come back. Thanks for having me. I know I ramble on a lot. I apologize.
We would love to have you back.
Hey, Dacia, I'm gonna get you to do some base notes for something I'm writing, so we're gonna do some stuff. I'm gonna grab you for sure.
Yeah, I'd love to for sure. Thank you
awesome.
for having
Absolute
me.
pleasure.
I love this hangout, and I can't wait to see y'all in person. Man, I've been missing our conferences and our conference meetings.
Oh yeah.
Oh man. Hopefully by 2023. I don't know.
Right. Exactly. You can't even predict what's going to happen. But it's been wonderful, wonderful having you here. And we're just going to end our broadcast, I think. Bye. See everybody later.
Bye, Dacia. Take care.